Hey, it's Jack Snacks. If you are as big of a Helldivers 2 fan as I am, and like the look of this, then I strongly urge you to watch this whole video. It's a long one, but it will greatly improve your gaming experience. So, whilst fighting this charge the other day, I was suddenly aware of how much visual clutter was on my screen. From the compass at the top of the screen, objectives, the return to the combat, the mission hint in the middle of the screen, my health bar, my stamina bar at the bottom. I just thought, wow, this game would be so much better if there was less going on. There was even a switch weapon, and then we have a retrieve weapon. And I want my games to look more like this. I want minimalism. I want this to look as clean as possible, so that I can engage in my fight without clutter on the screen. The first thing you'll notice is the reticle has gone, but we still have a laser sight. Also, with the new update, look at that bile spewer. That scared the heck out of me. Anyway, into a more sort of standard gunfight, this is what it should look like. We've got no reticle with the machine gun, and I am not struggling to spread democracy, shall we say. And it just feels better. It looks better. I am so much more invested in the game. And you also notice my stratagem menu is slightly curved. Now in this video I will go through how exactly I did that. There's no stamina bar, no reticle, no objectives, just me and the mission. Even throwing in my stratagem, we lose the timer and the text normally associated with it. Without any further delay, let's get into it. So, as you can see, this is Helldivers 2, and one of my least favourite things about this, which is very few things, is the visual clutter on screen. We've got the stratagems top left, the reinforce, the compass top centre, we've got the primary mission objectives and secondary objectives in the top right, they're always there, and then we have our health bar and our weapon information, stims, ammo, yada yada yada. And to me, I've always just felt, oh, and the reticle. And I've always just felt like there's a lot going on screen. And when the environments are so gorgeous, I can't help but feel a little bit cluttered and smothered sometimes. We've also got the stamina bar at the bottom. So if you're mid-gunfight, and there's also the blood effect around the edge of the screen. Let's get the full shebang. Okay, so we have everything going on the screen. And to me, that is a lot of noise that takes away from what is otherwise a gorgeous game. So, we're going to go straight into options, and the first thing we're going to do is change this vertical field of view. I think the preset standard is 55. I don't want that all the way up here because it curves the edge of the screens too much, and in a third-person shooter, it can just make their feet look a little bit weird. That's fine if you like that, but when he kicks his heels up, it seems to get close to the camera. And it's just distorting the edge of the screen. A little too much for me. But I do want to make a subtle change to that. So display, vertical field of view, we're going to take that to 70, which to me feels like the sweet spot, if you like. So we're going to click apply, and then we're going to go straight over to HUD. Now, the first thing I'm going to change is the heads up display curve. Most people don't even know this even exists, but all of this visual information on screen is very flat to the screen and takes up quite a bit of real estate on your screen, if you like. So I'm going to take the options over to this, HUD, and we're going to turn this all the way up. And what this is going to do is curve those icons to the edge of the screen. And to me, that almost feels like they are out of the way. Even the stratagems is less in your face. We go back to options and back to the HUD. Heads up display scale is the next thing we're going to do. We're going to drop that down to its minimum value, 0.75. Apply, click out, and now we've shrunk the size of those icons even more. So arrows are a little bit harder to see, but if you're familiar with the game, it's not too much of a problem. And you can see the compass is now a little bit more squashed, and it's almost like this is the inside of your helmet, even though you're playing third person. Unless you like to shoot like this, and then we can see everything that's going on. Back to the options, back to HUD. This I tend to leave onto low. Doesn't really affect that much, but it just lets you see through that just a little bit clearer. So the background of those icons is now slightly softer. Again, reducing visual clutter. Options, back to HUD. Primary objective visibility. This is visible, so it's always permanent in the top right of the screen. There's a couple of options here. You can change this to dynamic, which means as you get near the primary objectives, it will appear, which is fine, but still, I'd rather keep this as map only, meaning that the primary objective only appears when I press my map button, which to me is far more intuitive. So now we have cleared up that top right hand corner of the screen beautifully, and we can see much more of this beautiful game. Back to options, back to the HUD. So we've just changed that. We're going to secondary objective visibility. This is always on dynamic anyway. So this is when you walk near anything, the upload data, the escape pods, then it will appear on your top right. You can hide those altogether if you know where you're going, or you can leave it on dynamic. I don't particularly mind that popping up, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to put it on hidden. And click apply. We're not near any secondary objectives, so you're not going to be able to see that so far. Mission info visibility. Again, I prefer to keep this on map only. Again, if we're doing something like the launch ICBM missions and you walk near it, that primary objective information will appear on the top right hand of the screen if it's on dynamic. But we don't need to see it, personally. It's there when we press map, and you can tab in and out of that very quickly. Next, we've got stratagem visibility. So I'm going to show you this one. Top left of the screen, we can see it says stratagems permanently, and it doesn't hide away. It's not dynamic. It is always there. Again, that is just taking up too much real estate on my screen for my preferences. We're going to take that to header hidden. Click apply, come out of that, and now we've lost that word stratagems, and we've lost the little translucent icon to the left of it. We press our stratagem button up and it comes up a lot cleaner, and we've gained a few extra inches, well, yeah, a few extra inches on the top left of the screen, and it's now curved away from the center of the screen more because we changed the curve. To me, this is already starting to look a lot better, but we still have a few things on screen that I'd like to change. Compass, weapon info, and the stamina bar. So we're going to options to the HUD again, we're on health visibility. You can change this to dynamic, so any changes in your health means it will pop up. It'll take a few seconds for this to vanish, so I'm just going to wait a second. So for whatever reason, this health visibility dynamic isn't currently working on. What should happen is the bottom left of the screen should disappear when you put this on. If you take damage, it should pop up, or if you stun, it normally pops up. But after normally 5 to 10 seconds, it does tend to vanish. But for whatever reason, during this game recording, it is not. So, we're going to move on. Not overly important. I can put it on map only, so we can see what it should look like on dynamic. I don't mind this being gone, that I can't see my health, because we do have a blood spatter on the edge of the screen to let me know I am injured. So as long as you've got a little bit of common sense, we do not need our health bar on screen. Again, step by step, this is looking tidier and tidier. We can tab into our map and we can see our health bar bottom left quite nicely. Cool, going back to the HUD. Where are we up to? Hint visibility. This is things like if you're taking a little bit long to do something and it'll just pop up, or enter vehicle. We don't need to see that, so we can hide that. Missed one here. Weapon status visibility. This is visible and it is on constantly. Bottom left, you can see your grenades, your magazines, and your ammo. Personally, I don't need to see that, so we can go ahead and change this. Dynamic is when you fire the weapon, ammo starts to deplete, you'll see it go down, and then when you're not using your weapon, running around completing your objectives, it will vanish off the screen. But personally, I don't like to use it. So we'll set it to map only. Things like energy weapons will give you visual feedback when they're overheating. Whereas this, we can hear when the magazine is empty, and it also stops firing. If we need to check how many magazines we've got left. We can just tab in, tab out. And again, we have cleared up a nice chunk of real estate on the screen. I'm going to go back to options. HUD. And then stamina visibility is our next one. Dynamic is what it's on by standard, which means it's not here when you are stood still or slow jogging or walking. You sprint, the stamina bar likes to appear, and then it's center screen at the bottom. What we can do, there's two things we can do with this. This is down to personal preference, of course. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. You can turn it to map only, which I don't know why you'd need to check the map to check your stamina, but it's there if you want it. Whereas I like this. This has now cleared up the bottom of my screen beautifully, and I can see more of what's going on. And also when your Helldiver exhausts himself, so I'm just going to run around until he's tired. I can hear his breathing getting heavier, and then he slows to a jog. So I now know I need to slow down and let my stamina recover. If you want to, you can tab in, check your stamina, and get going. Or you can just wait till his breathing returns to normal. So cool. We are getting there. So hint visibility and tooltip visibility, we can go ahead and turn to hidden. It's things like getting in and out of a car or terminals. We don't need to see that. Stamina visibility we have done. Stamina width. This was the other option I meant to show you, by the way. I'll just quickly tab in at that. So this is the other option I was talking about. You can turn that stamina bar down to a minimum, which is a lot more visual pleasing than it was. But personally, as I said a second ago, I prefer keeping this to map only. Or you can keep that on short and keep it to dynamic. This is one for those who want to be ultra immersive. And this is reticle visibility. It is set on dynamic by standard, which meaning it only pops up as you ADS. It's not when you're running about. However, the guns I like to use tend to have laser sights on them. And with this reticle being so large and center screen, I do find it's obscuring my vision, again, for this wonderful backdrop that I'm playing against. So we're going to go ahead back into our HUD. Reticle visibility, and you can just turn this to hidden. Now, this is where it really starts to be a more immersive experience. Of course, we lose our laser sight in the distance a little bit, but aiming really isn't that hard on this game, okay? After a couple of missions, you will realise the reticle is not essential. If you're using a weapon without a laser sight, for example, my machine gun, again, relatively easy to aim and fire. If something's a little bit further away, scope in and fire, like so. Personally, I prefer the challenge, and when you are being swarmed by the bugs, it's much more visually rewarding to be backing away and spraying the prey like so. We are getting there. Where are we up to? Info feed visibility. So this is the bottom right-hand corner when you need to chat, or when you walk near a minor place of interest, it should normally tell you. So now that discovered minor place of interest would have popped up on the bottom right, but because I put it to map only, it's not just popping up. Okay. Okay, that didn't work like I thought it would. I think it's because it's on dynamic. Let's turn that to map only and see if it changes anything. Are there any more samples?
Out of stim.
Lost and sending replacement. Request approved. Deploying reinforcements.
Joining the fray.
Yeah, when I picked up that sample container, nothing appeared top right. But we still get a little pop-up to let us know we've picked something up on the right-hand side of the screen. Personally, I don't mind that, and I don't think there is a way of turning that off. Player marker visibility. Now this is an obvious one for me. When I'm trying to capture gameplay, and I'm trying to trick shot a bile titan, whatever it is, somebody pings an enemy and now it has that red crosshair. To me, that is just obscuring my vision. So, what we can go ahead and do is we can turn this down to hidden, which now means I can ping things if I'm aiming at them. My enemies will be able to see that, but I can't. And if they ping something like they ping a charger every time I see one, or they see one, then it's just not going to come up on the screen. We're left with a lovely, clean, crisp view. Okay, let's see what we've got left. Compass visibility. Again, this can be completely hidden, or you can have it on map. I personally don't think I've used the compass for anything. But before I just turn it off, I'm going to show that you can just turn this down to short. So now top center of the screen is much narrower and much smaller. But again, I don't really use the compass, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on map only. This doesn't need to change, neither does this, neither does any of this. I can click apply, and now we have got a very clean, crisp heads-up display, including no reticle. We still can pull up our stratagems. That reminds me, I'll just show you the playing this game on maximum difficulty. Stratagem visibility, you can go ahead and turn that to hidden. I recommend having a piece of paper next to you, because now we can pull up our stratagem. I can remember resupply is down, right. I'll throw that.
Deploying equipment
and
package.
Also we don't have the countdown, which I quite like. Again, this is for those who want really cinematic gameplay, minimalism, and the ultimate challenge. So interaction visibility, this is one I missed. This is too far for my liking. You can turn that to hidden, click apply, and now we lose the icon to pick things up. There was a machine gun over here a second ago, or an entrenchment tool. I have to actually look on the ground for it. Let's can't remember my stratagems.
Mission at 20 minutes remaining. Orbital strike incoming.
So again, we lose the icon for picking things up doing that one. So let's just go back to our HUD. I can't even remember what that one was called. Interaction visibility. We want that one invisible. That's everything on this so far. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. Obviously, there's going to be individual preferences. Most people like to keep their reticles on for obvious reasons, but I'm chasing that immersive Christopher Nolan style gameplay. So, thanks for watching the video, share this with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm just going to let this video play so you can enjoy some of the surroundings.
Tactical asset nearby. Firing orbital strike.